Hey guys, Michael Corsentino with this month's lighting tutorial. This month is all about creating a high-end look without a high-end budget. So let's talk about that. Basically, what I wanted to try and achieve here were a couple looks, two looks. We ended up doing two looks that approximated what you can do with some very, very expensive tools. And we're going to cover those tools. They are tools which are typically used to create this as well as many other looks that you guys have probably seen a million times on high-end glossy magazine covers and advertisements, editorial and otherwise. If you've worked in any studios, I'm sure you've seen these usual suspect tools, which we're going to go over. They are absolutely amazing and drool-worthy tools. However, they do come with a matching price point. So what I really wanted to look at, given that light is light, is seeing what we could achieve with much less in the way of light modifiers. The one caveat is, of course, I am working with other tools that are not necessarily inexpensive. However, everything that I do here, you can definitely achieve with less expensive equipment. This just happens to be some of the stuff that I shoot with, like medium format and the lighting equipment that I use, etc. But the modifier that we're talking about, specifically the modifier, I wanted to try and really see what was possible working with an inexpensive modifier compared to the modifiers that are typically used to create these looks. So here's the look that we're talking about. You can see it on screen now. That's look number one. I did two variations here, one with just a seamless white background, and then one where I wrapped this image here over on the right, this image here wrapped her in a box of light, essentially a three-sided box of light, and I will show you exactly how I did that. So that's look one with one subtle variation, just to create a little bit more wraparound light overall, give a little bit more punch. And then we have look number two, which again is that more kind of specular look. They're both exactly the same light setup. I just changed some subtle variations, some different modifications to accentuate some different things and modify the light slightly. But the key light position does not change, and I'll go over all of that in the lighting diagrams as we move through the tutorial. All right, so let's take a look at the usual suspect modifiers here that are typically used to create this kind of look. Or these kinds of looks. So they're all umbrellas. Typically this look is created using large bounce back umbrellas, and we'll go over exactly what that means in a little bit. But you can see here some of the typical usual suspects that are used in high-end studios, and photographers are very fond of using. The only thing is they don't come cheap. And don't get me wrong, I'm not taking anything away from these tools. They're all absolutely incredible tools. You can't begin to approach what they can do with less expensive tools. But what I wanted to do is see if I could at least come close with a tool that was a fraction of the cost of these, albeit admittedly amazing tools. So let's just go through them. You start off with the Broncolor Para, showing tools here that are all relatively within the same size as the Westcott 7-foot Parabolic that I ended up using for this, with a silver interior. All of these also have silver interior, so try to kind of level the playing ground and make all things as equal as possible. The Para 330 Paras are anywhere from 4,000 to 13,000 K. Right up around the 7-foot mark, it gets fairly expensive. Same thing with the Pro Photo. Once you're up to the 7-foot range, you're about 4,000. Moving up to 10-foot, you're at about 10,000. The Brise line of lights and modifiers, typically they come together, is again anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000. So it really starts to kind of get stratospheric in the pricing. And again, they're amazing tools. They offer things that you just cannot do with other tools, but they're not necessarily what I needed for this. And then lastly, and what I ended up using to try and do this on a budget was the Westcott 7-foot Parabolic. And these come in a variety of finishes. For this, we're using a bounce back with a silver interior because I wanted that punchy, contrasty light. And there were several other reasons that I needed to, that I chose this particular modifier, which we'll cover in a minute. But it also comes in shoot-through versions. It also comes with bounce back in white. There's a white and black. So there are several different options, and I'm going to cover these other modifiers in forthcoming tutorials. But for this one, I just used the silver. Okay. So those are some of the tools that are typically used. And again, I really wanted to do this on a budget and use some tools that are more approachable and accessible for the masses. So I used the Westcott 7-foot silver parabolic. And with that, I was able to create these looks here. Okay, so let's talk about exactly what was going on here with the lighting. And I have some proper diagrams also, which we can cover, and I can try to walk you through each one of the setups. But I just want to talk a little bit about the properties of the umbrella and light position and distance from subject, and the kind of shape of light that you're going to get from an umbrella, and why I chose it for this particular task. Okay, so let's first of all start with distance. So basically, right about here to here, I've got about 15 feet of space, 15 to 16 feet of space between my model and the light. So that is going to necessitate, if I want to cover all of this, I wanted full coverage from top to bottom, right? As well as 4 tighter shots, and maybe even some, even tighter, so 3/4 or tighter. I wanted to be able to cover all of these ranges. So having a modifier that was large and that could be moved back significantly far to give me good even coverage overall, as well as light up the background. I wanted the background well lit. I wanted to accomplish all of this with one light, where typically just to do the background, to get a white background, you're talking about 4 lights on the background. You're having to flag them off to create separate zones. Then you're using another key light, perhaps a bunch of accent lights. So it gets very, very intensive from either a rental or an ownership perspective, having all those lights. And granted, given my druthers, that's what I do. I have those lights. I use those tools. There's nothing wrong with doing that. The more stuff that you can bring to bear, the better it is. That's great. But I wanted to see if it was doable, if I could come close, again, with one light and one modifier. And I think I got pretty close, I have to say. Really pleased with the results. And it was all just knowing what you want to accomplish and what tools you need to use to get there. So we've got about 15 feet here. And because this is what's called an indirect light source, and it's indirect, it's a bounce back light source, indirect, because the light is traveling away from the model. You can see here that it's pointed away from the subject and it faces in to the umbrella, hits the back of the umbrella, and then radiates out, right? So that's why in this particular case, I needed sufficient power to do that because of the distance, because of the size, because of the desired f-stop that I wanted to use. I wanted to be at f14 to f16, somewhere in that range. So I needed, a lot of power. Now, granted, I was working at 100 ISO. You could, of course, make up the difference and use a lesser powered light source. You could work at 400 ISO, for example. You could use a wider aperture. So there are ways for you to accomplish this using this tool, this particular modifier, without using a 2400 watt second light head and pack, which I was doing here. Again, these are just the tools that I use. But definitely doable with less expensive tools as well. So the way that a bounce back umbrella works and why it was particularly well suited for this particular task where I wanted light everywhere is that an umbrella is going to do just that. An umbrella is going to give you light everywhere. It just radiates out light all over the place, right? It's not going to be the tool to use if you want to really control exactly where your light is going. But if you want a wash of light, if you want spill everywhere, then an umbrella is going to be the ticket. And that's why I used it here. And the larger the umbrella, the better the job it's going to do at doing that for this particular task, okay? Also, the other consideration was the quality of light that I wanted. I wanted a very specular, poppy, punchy kind of light, and that's where silver came in. That's why I chose to use a silver interior for the light, because that's going to do just that. One of the added benefits also is that silver interior is also going to increase the efficiency of my light. It's going to output the effective efficiency, let's say. It's not really going to boost the power, physically, but because it's a silver reflective surface, is going to punch more light out toward my model. Okay, so that's another benefit of using silver. If you are needing some more output, silver will definitely help you do that. Okay, yeah, one of the other things I wanted to talk about here is the position of the light. Okay, so let's get rid of all of this stuff here. And I just want to talk about the position of the light head here relative to the depth of the umbrella. All right, so you can see here that I've got the light head and the edge of the umbrella pretty much parallel to one another. They're right along that same line. Where you position your light head relative to the depth of the umbrella is definitely going to affect the quality of light and the coverage of the light. So I played around with it and found that I got more coverage and a better quality of light, a more specular quality of light when my light was right about there. And that really ended up, kind of lighting up all the edges of the box rather than moving it in here where I was working with a lot less of light. And that, makes sense in the physics of it, that I would end up, having a smaller area illuminated. So moving it back here right to the edge really allowed me to use the entirety of the umbrella's surface. All right, so one other thing that I want you to pay attention to when you're looking at umbrellas and are the facets of the umbrella. Okay, and what I mean by that are these. Each one of these facets, okay, those are going to give you a particular catch light. And lighting nerds like me, we care a lot about catch lights and the look of the light in the eyes. How many facets there are will definitely impact the quality of the catch light, as well as the look of the overall light that is created, the quality of the light falling on the subject, but in particular the catch lights. Elechrome is coming out with a new line of modifiers called the Light Motive, and I'll be doing some editorials with those lights in upcoming months, so definitely look for that. That has a lot more depth to it. That's another consideration to take into consideration when you're using umbrellas. The deeper the umbrella, the deeper the parabolic, as manufacturers like to call these, the more throw you're going to get, the more contrast that you're going to get, the more fall off that you're going to get. All right. So if you're looking for something even more with a more heightened, look that fills all those attributes, you want to look for, like I know Westcott also makes a Zeppelin. There are a few other, modifiers out there that have that. Elechrom's deep octas, those kinds of modifiers are going to give you an even more heightened kind of contrasty look. But here I wanted a nice big 7-foot umbrella that approximated some of those other tools which we covered previously. So that's what that's all about. All right, so let's take a look at the individual lighting diagrams and how each of these looks was created. Okay, so this is look number 1. And as I said, look number 1 has a variation, which we'll cover in a minute, but this is how the first one was created. So really, really straightforward. Basically just a white 9-foot seamless, model against the backdrop, nice and close. Large 7-foot silver parabolic with one light head in it. That's the Profoto Pro Head pumping out full tilt, 2400 watt seconds. And again, that's just because I was looking for f16 and I had quite a distance to cover, and I was shooting at ISO 100. So if you were not so inclined to do that, you wanted to shoot with a 500 watt second head, fine, just put your ISO to 400 and shoot a little bit more wide open, and you're probably going to be able to get pretty close. And you can see all of the tech notes on the diagram as well, which also appear in the magazine. All right, that's look number 1. Let's take a look at the variation for look number 1, and that's going to be this one, which was the this was an image where what I did was I wrapped the subject, I wrapped Chelsea in a box of light, essentially a 3-sided box of light, using foam core, using white foam core 4x8 V flats. Okay, and what I did is I just created this 3-sided box where we've got behind her, and then we've got on the left side, right side, and that is just taking all of the light that's coming in from the key light and just bouncing it back all around. And the added benefit is it's also creating a nice white background for Chelsea. So if you don't have a seamless background, this is a great way to kind of get a background and also create a real high key look, which I'm really fond of. and does it pretty inexpensively. And you can use V-flats for all sorts of other things. You guys who read this column and follow my stuff know that I use V-flats all the time, so they're super handy to have. And this is just another one of the myriad ways that you can use V-flats. And you can see here that there's a slight difference in terms of the intensity and specularity and high key kind of look created using this as opposed to the previous look where we just had the white seamless with nothing side to side. Okay, so that is look number 1 with the variation, and then let's move on to look number 2 to finish everything off. Here, basically same exact setup, but what I did was I wanted to experiment with some different, again, inexpensive kind of DIY backdrops without having to break the bank. To create something cool and fashion looking, I just grabbed 2 other DIY reflectors that I had. I had picked these up at Home Depot to do another editorial with a lot of really, really high key kind of contrasty reflected light. They're just silver backed insulation panels, 4x8 insulation panels. They work great as really, really contrasty reflectors, but I created a bookend out of them to create this cove that I could use as a backdrop for Chelsea and then put her in there. And then the added benefit is that they also reflect back lots of contrasty specular light onto Chelsea on the side here, and they give us a nice kind of cool cove to shoot in. If you haven't created a little cove for yourself to shoot in, it's really fun. You can do it with all sorts of different kinds of materials and surfaces, and it's a lot of fun to shoot in a cove, so check it out. All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for this month's tutorial. I hope you guys have enjoyed it, and I definitely encourage you to check out that umbrella or any other umbrellas that shoot your fancy, but catch your fancy. They're really useful and great, and I'll be doing some more with them in upcoming tutorials. So thanks for tuning in, and I will catch you guys next month. All the best. See you next time.